Hey, it's Liz D'Alto, and this is the Untamed the Wild Soul Woman podcast. From body image, sex, spirituality, money and relationships, to motherhood, creativity, business, communication, and desire, Untamed the Wild Soul Woman is the place to come for real stories and powerful advice to help you reclaim and redefine womanhood in the 21st century. Elizabeth D'Alto here, your host for the Untamed the Wild Soul podcast. This is episode number 118. So if you hear anything, if we reference anything in the show notes, you can get those at untameyourself.com/episode-118. Today, we are talking about procrastination. I recently had a question. Someone in the Wild Soul Insiders was wondering, what's the deal with procrastination? What's going on? Why do I do this? Obviously, it doesn't always appear to be helpful or useful. So I want to talk about a couple reasons why we procrastinate and what's the purpose of procrastination, what's going on there. So the first thing that came to mind for me, which has worked out in my favor many, many, many times, is sometimes procrastination is actually just divine timing and action. Now, for this to be useful and not a distraction, you really need to have a connection to your own inner wisdom so that when you check in with yourself, you know if it's just not time yet or if you're stalling, if you're in fear, or if you're resistance. And so I'll give you an example for me, even like literally just recently in the last couple of days as I'm recording this. I posted this past Saturday on Facebook something about wanting to express a controversial opinion. And then I waited a couple of days to post it because the thing that sparked me to finally share my opinion, and we'll put a post to that opinion in the show notes because I did the Facebook Live video today on my personal page, facebook.com/Liz D'Alto, if you just want to go check it out now. But what was good about me waiting, so I could have been like, oh, I procrastinated, I waited 2 days, but really when I was inspired to finally share the opinion and not hold it back any longer, I was angry. It was something that pissed me off that inspired me. And I didn't want the energy behind the expression to be anger. I did want it to be love, and I wanted it to be useful for people. So to give myself the 2 days to let the anger simmer and to clear that out and take a look at what that was useful. And so, I mean, technically, the definition of procrastination is just to prolong something or to delay something. So I did delay it. Technically, I procrastinated, but it was divine timing. It was useful procrastination. Now, the other reasons we procrastinate are not necessarily useful. Often it's because we're afraid or because we're resisting doing something we know we really need to do. Often these are going to be things that are going to up-level us. They're taking us into the next level, or they are making forward progress, or they are having a conversation with someone that we know we need to have, but we're afraid to have it. We're afraid of the outcomes. We're afraid of hurting people, losing people, not belonging. All the different reasons we might be afraid of things. We're afraid of growing. We're afraid of shining. We're afraid of our own magnificence, our own success. And so here's my question for you. When you find yourself in procrastination, to take a moment and reflect on, what is it that I say I want? Because often we say we want things and our actions are not matching our words. And if you're not taking action towards the things that you say you want, and you take a moment to look in and go, okay, what do I say I want? There's two paths there to the answers. Either you don't actually want the things that you're saying you're wanting, or you are in fear and you are in resistance and you are procrastinating, and it's time to take some action. Now, you hear a lot of people talking about take massive action and stuff like that. Listen, it doesn't have to be that extreme. Sometimes when you're really, really, really scared, massive action might not be available to you because it might be too scary. You just need to take any action, any even small, tiny action. Just put one foot in front of the other. Just take the first step so that you can keep going. One of the detrimental things to procrastination is the more we put things off, the more we delay, the more we postpone, the harder it's going to be to get started because you don't have any momentum. And when there's no momentum to take those first couple steps, it's like excruciating, right? Starting from scratch sometimes. But once you have momentum to take the next step and the next step and the next step becomes much, much easier. So what's important, also to understand is that sometimes we procrastinate because we don't actually know the steps to take. And so the best next step might be to figure out the course of action, right? So if you don't know where you're going, that's not useful. So you need to have a vision. What's the end point? What's the goal? What are you trying to do? What do you want to accomplish? And it's not that you have to take a big, massive action, but you just need to take the first step, and then the second step, and then the third step. So sometimes the best way to get yourself out of procrastination is to make a plan. And the thing is this, whether you follow all the way through with the plan doesn't matter as much as that you take step one, because sometimes step 1, 2, and 3 are going to say, oh, you know what? The thing that I thought might have been step number 4, this might be better instead. And then you might pivot on the path. Great podcast episode, past interview with my friend Lisa Berkovitz is a good resource here, because one of the things we talk about is when you're following your soul's path, it's not a linear path. Sometimes you think it's, I'm going from point A to point B, but all the steps in between point A and point B, they're not usually linear. And sometimes once you take a couple of the steps, you realize that you need to pivot, you need to go in a different direction. Lisa and I talk about in that episode, so we'll put that in the show notes. Check that out there. So know your vision, know what you're wanting. Don't overwhelm yourself with needing to try to take all the steps at once. Or sometimes what we do is we think we need to take step number 17, but if you haven't taken steps 1 through 16, you can't take step 17, right? And then you fall on your face. So literally, just to get out of procrastination, you just need to take one step, and then you just need to take another step. It sounds so simple, which is why a lot of you won't do it. I'm encouraging you to let it be that simple. Oh man, my friend Amateo, this past weekend, I was speaking at his event, and he said something so incredible, which was that sometimes when we have a complex problem, we think that the solution to the problem needs to be as complex as the problem, which isn't the case. Sometimes the solution is much simpler than the complexity or the perceived complexity of the problem. And so in our culture, in a lot of ways, we become attached to things needing to be complex or needing to be difficult or needing to be a struggle or needing to be hard work. So if you could put that stuff aside long enough to go, I just need to take the next best step, and it can be simple. It might not be easy, but it can be simple. Do you understand the difference between simple and easy? I hope you do. Easy means easy to do, right? Simple means not complex. So the step might not be complex. It might not be easy to do because of all your, internal stuff that you've got going on. But if you can muster up just enough courage to take step 1, I'm really, really overemphasizing that here, because so many people think they need to be like, blasting through the goal or blasting towards the vision, when really just taking one humble step at a time, and sometimes pausing along the way, asking for guidance from your inner wisdom, from your source, whatever that is for you, or from someone you trust, or from a teacher or advisor, could be really useful so that you can keep going. Because the point is not necessarily always to get there as fast as possible, but to get there in a sustainable way, that you're actually going to enjoy it when you get there, right? And then the process of it is you're going to grow in the process. It's going to be a valuable experience for you. I was reading in this Osho book I'm reading right now, he tells the story of Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great, this amazing conqueror, goes out, conquers the world, and then for the first time ever, his men see him cry. And they ask him why he's crying, and he's crying because he conquered all these things and then realized there was nothing left. Because it wasn't about conquering, it wasn't about getting all the things, it was about the journey. It was about the experience of the conquering. And so we forget that sometimes. And then we get to the thing and it's just not as great as we thought it would be, because that wasn't even necessarily the point. So the last thing about procrastination is getting yourself momentum, right? Because procrastination means you're stopped. It means you're stalled. So you are taking action. You're taking all these actions to be stopped, to be stalled, and to stay where you are. So you just need to flip the momentum of the action to be towards what you want rather than away from it. And so there's a lot of ways to do those things. Sometimes it is in your mindset. Sometimes it's you just need to move your body and change your state and get your energy moving so that you can take some action with some of your own personal energy and vitality behind it. So there's a lot of simple ways to do this. As I mentioned in the first point, sometimes it just takes being connected to your own self, your own inner wisdom, so that you could tune in and go, okay, what's the next most important step I could take here to be moving towards my vision or towards my goal or whatever is the thing that I want to be doing or accomplishing right now or being or having. And so for those of you listening in real time, enrollment for the Wild Soul Movement virtual program is still open through July 10th. Then it'll come off the market all the way until the summer or the spring of 2017 next year. And so if you do struggle with procrastination, if you get stuck a lot, if you find yourself stopping, a lot of that is because you don't trust yourself and because you're not connected to yourself. Wild Soul Movement is a program designed specifically to help you connect to yourself so that you can trust yourself, so that you can be your own best guide. It just takes some work to get there as well. So if that's something that resonates for you, you can check it out at untameyourself.com/join-us. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Again, the show notes for today's episode are at untameyourself.com/episode-118. I hope that was super useful for you. Remember, just put one foot in front of the other. Find enough guts just to take the next step. You don't need to find enough guts to complete the whole thing. Just take the next step and then keep taking step after step after step after step. You can totally do this. I believe in you. Come on over into the Facebook group if you want to talk about this more at untameyourself.com/Facebook, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Getting ready to get ready is kind of a waste of time. And this is another reason I recommend choosing someone that's going to guide you at your pace, at the pace that's appropriate for you, perhaps pushing you a little out of your comfort zone, but definitely never forcing you to grow faster than you're ready or willing to. This is something that I appreciate about my clients so much. I have learned so much about pace from the women that I work with, right? Because not everyone is like me. I tend to process and get through things pretty quickly, and some people it takes them much, much, much longer, months, years even, and that's okay. There is no right or wrong pace, and even if you're wanting to speed it up, it doesn't mean that you need to speed it up, by the speed of light. It could just be accelerate a bit beyond the pace that you're moving at right now.